I'm Chef Lynn, and welcome to the Flavor Secrets Kitchen. Today, our lesson is a vegetable terrine. Think of terrine as a mold. We're going to make a mold of all these beautiful, colorful vegetables that you can use as either a side or an entree. There is a little bit of labor that has to happen before we can start making our mold. So first, I'll show you how to cut and prepare all the vegetables that go into it. We want them to all be ready, laid out like this, so that when we go to put our terrine together, it'll be easy. This is a really great recipe because it looks extremely complicated. I take it to lunches a lot and people always want to know how to do it. The thing is though, it's really simple, and once you see it, I think you can do it yourself at home. So first, as I said, you have to prepare the vegetables. We're grilling 4 kinds of vegetables: red bell pepper, zucchini, summer squash, and eggplant. So you can see that I've already started the pepper over here. The reason is because the pepper takes about maybe 20 minutes. I was going to say a half an hour, but when you have it on this high of heat, it will only take about 15 or 20 minutes to cook. And you can see that I've cooked the pepper until the juices are starting to ooze out and until the skin is completely blackened. Once it reaches that stage, we can take a small paper bag, pick up the pepper, and you can see how it's soft and starting to collapse. That's how I know it's done. Put it in the paper bag, seal it up, and let it sit there to steam in its own juices. We'll be back to that in just a second. Okay, first let's start with the summer squash. To cut the summer squash, first we want to cut off the end and realize that during the summertime, summer squash comes in lots of different sizes. These happen to be relatively big ones. If you use small ones, you may need a few extras. Okay, whenever you're cutting using a really sharp knife, you want to find a way to stabilize whatever you're cutting. So you can see how I've cut just a little piece of skin off that I'll discard, and that creates a flat spot that I can then put the summer squash down on, and it gives me stability. Then I can use this hand as a guide, my left hand as a guide, and cut down, and I've got a very secure surface, so I don't have to worry about slipping and cutting myself with a sharp knife. These will be the outside of the terrine, and I want them to be very thin. You can see that one's actually a little bit too thin, so let's make it a little bit bigger, about 1/8 of an inch. And you should be able to get maybe 6. Then I'll put these in a pan and move on to the next vegetable. Let's set it right over here. We're a little limited for space here. Next, we take the zucchini. Cut off the end again. Again, stabilize the zucchini. Actually, there's a little spot in this zucchini that I don't like, so I'm going to use that as the spot where I'll stabilize it. Again, we've got a flat spot. Put it down. Cut a very thin edge off. And now the zucchini we can make a little bit bigger. I can make the zucchini pieces about 1/4 of an inch big. So let's just cut through the zucchini, and again, I would continue cutting, but I already have these prepared, so I'll just cut 2 for right now to show you how to do it. Put those in the pan. Next is the eggplant. The eggplant has this end on it that sort of grows down and covers up an area that's still good to eat. So I'll open that up and just trim that off without wasting too much of the eggplant. Now again, I want to make a flat spot, so I'll look for this bulbous part and just cut that off because I can't really use that anyway because I want to have straight pieces. So again, put my eggplant down, trim off a spot, and now the eggplant also can be more like 1/2 inch wide. Next, we need to put some olive oil on these in order to grill them. So I'll bring my plate over here, using a pastry brush. Take a little bit of olive oil and brush it on all the vegetables. The next thing we want to do is add a little bit of salt and pepper to these vegetables. So I've got my salt and pepper down here. By the way, I like to use coarse salt because it dissolves better, it has a lot more surface area. I'm just going to take a little bit of this, sprinkle some salt, and sprinkle some pepper. Okay, put the salt and pepper away. Okay, the next thing we'll do is grill this eggplant. Notice that I'm placing this on the grill in the form of an X. So there's the first arm of the X. You don't have to do this for the vegetable terrine, but I'd like to use this just to show you how to get really great grill marks for example, for a steak. Okay, now don't be afraid to just let your vegetables sit on there, because we want to have straight grill marks. And I'll do the same thing with the zucchini, and I'll do the same thing with the summer squash. Set this back here, out of the way. As I said, don't be afraid to let this sit there on the grill. You're going to be able to tell, I'm not sure if you can see this, but I'm starting to see little indentations on the side of the eggplant. You can lift it up if you want to check to see if you've got some good grill marks, and it looks like they're coming. And then just try to lay them down exactly like you did. As soon as you feel like you've got some nice grill marks, turn it in the shape of an X, like that, and then you'll get perfect grill marks going the other way. You can see right here that I've done that on these. And that's what you want to do if you're making a steak, for example. For this eggplant, it doesn't really matter because these will be in the middle of the terrine, but I just wanted to show you that trick. Notice that when I put these on the trays, I didn't pile them up. If you pile your vegetables up when you cook them, they're going to get mushy and they're going to start to fall apart. So I've laid each one separately, just maybe overlapping it a little bit, so that they can cool without affecting each other. All right, we've got one more piece over here that can get a little bit more brown. So in the meantime, I'll show you what to do with this pepper. Now this pepper has been cooling long enough that I can just handle it. Now when I take it out of the wrapper, you can see that the skin has started to separate. If you press on it and push this out with a knife, most of the seeds will come out by themselves. So you can see most all of the seeds are in that end pocket. Then you just use your fingers to peel the black skin away, like this. Slice it, take the back of your knife, and push out any other seeds. And what you have left is what I have here, a nice smoky pepper that will make your terrine taste really great. Be careful not to wash the pepper. It's really a temptation when you're cleaning them because your fingers get messy, and it's really a temptation to just stick that pepper under the faucet and get all the seeds off quickly and easily that way. But don't do that because you'll wash away all the beautiful smoky flavor. Okay, so let's bring over our last piece of the outside of the terrine, our last piece of summer squash. Also, with regard to the summer squash, when I laid these in this pan, I paid attention to which side looked better. I liked the looks of this side better than that side, so I laid it up. And you'll see why in a minute. Okay, let's move this out of the way and bring over our terrine mold. Now this happens to be a really fancy terrine mold, and it's enough to make a terrine large enough to feed about 14 people, or in other words, for a good-sized party. Realize though that you don't need to go out and buy an expensive terrine mold like this. You can use a meat terrine if you happen to have one, or you can use any kind of a bread pan. Just try to keep it about 3 inches across. You can use a wider one, but it won't work quite as well. This one happens to be perfect for the vegetable terrine because it's got this nice rounded bottom in it. Okay, so first thing we want to do is pull out a piece of plastic wrap that's longer than the terrine mold. Now another little trick, if you want to get your plastic wrap to stick to your terrine, put a little bit of water inside there, and that will help the saran wrap to adhere to the terrine mold. We want to push it down in, but leave these sides hanging over the edges. Now it's just a matter of assembling the terrine. In order to put the terrine together, we need some glue. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move this. This is another sort of grill that you can use if you don't have a grill inside, like I do. You can pick up one of those and do your grilling inside. So the next thing we need, as I mentioned, is our glue. This is simply 3/4 of a cup of extra virgin olive oil. Try and use a nice olive oil because it lends a lot of taste to the terrine. And 1/4 cup of a nice balsamic vinegar, a dark balsamic vinegar. And all I've done is I've whisked that together. That, by the way, is the standard composition of a vinaigrette. So what I have here is simply a vinaigrette. To make the glue, I'm going to use gelatin. This is unflavored gelatin. I think Knox is the only person who makes it. And it comes in little packets. You need 3 packets because each packet contains a tablespoon of unflavored gelatin. If you want to make this dish completely vegetarian, you can also use agar-agar. And agar-agar is a derivative of seaweed, and it will do the same thing as gelatin. You can use it pretty much 1 for 1. The only thing with the agar-agar is that it sets up really fast, so you have to work quickly. Don't make this until the last minute. So the first thing I want to do is bloom this gelatin. This means I'm sprinkling the gelatin over the top of my vinaigrette, and as it starts to gelatinize, it will swell up. And I want to leave it there just for a minute so that it dissolves. Okay, and while that's blooming, I can start assembling my terrine. Now remember, I left these sides, the prettiest sides of these up, so I know which one is up. And all I'm going to do is lay the summer squash with the pretty side up, side by side, all the way down the terrine. See how I've made each one line up right next to the one before it? And here I've got kind of a little dark spot, which is fine, but I'll hide it a little bit underneath this one, if you've got any of those. It'll still taste good, so we want to leave it in there. And all I'll do is put these all the way down the terrine. For this size terrine, which is about 18 inches long, I needed 30 pieces. So I grilled 30 pieces of summer squash. So you can just sort of look at how big your summer squash is and what the size of your terrine is that you're using, or plastic box or whatever shape you can find. Just make sure the sides are square. So you can just look at the type of terrine you're using, or box, or whatever it is you're using to shape and mold your terrine. Lay your summer squash beside it and kind of figure out how many squash you'll need to make. Okay, now I'm going down the other side, and before I do that, I'm going to turn the burner on underneath my gelatin because I want to heat this just until it foams up. And that will cause it to dissolve into the vinaigrette better. Okay, that one has a hole. I could use that, but I won't. Just go all the way down the other side, just like this. Hear that little bubbling noise? We can turn this fan off now. I've got a little bubbly noise going on in the vinaigrette. And now I need a pastry brush. This pastry brush has just been in the oil, so it's no problem. I can still use it because I've got oil in here. Now I want to just stir this together. Actually, I want to whisk it together. This is stirring, and this is whisking. Getting the liquid back and forth between the tines is whisking. And that's what I want to do because it's a little bit lumpy. And I want to have a glue that's paintable. And I don't know if you can see this, but as I'm doing this, it's starting to thicken already from the gelatin. The great part about this terrine is that you can make it the day before. In fact, you have to make it the day before, and then let it sit in the refrigerator all night. So I just love it because I can get up in the morning, get ready for the luncheon or whatever, and show up with this beautiful dish. that looks like it's come, that I've just prepared it fresh that morning. Okay, so now I've got this thick looking glue, and it's time to go to work. Here's my pastry brush and my glue. And what I want to do is just paint the bottom, try and get the thick part up off the bottom of the vinaigrette, and paint my glue onto the bottom. Then all I'll do is make layers of all of these beautiful vegetables. Let's start with the zucchini. Okay, when I get to the end, if I need a little piece, I can just tear it off and put it in. Then I need more glue. Okay, next I'm going to put my eggplant. You can see that the eggplant is a little bit too wide to fit in there, so I'll just trim off the skin, a little bit of the skin on one side, but I'll save that piece because it's delicious, and set it in. Take the next piece, trim off the skin, set it in. Next piece needs to be about that long. Trim off the skin and set it in. Oh, I still need one little piece, so I'll just take this, I'll take another piece and fit it in the end. More glue. And even get some glue up the sides. This is such a nice alternative to something like aspic, because it does a beautiful job of holding the terrine together, but it has a lot of beautiful taste. Next is the red pepper. And then, can you guess what? More glue. Keep kind of stirring it together. Okay, next we need some fresh basil leaves. Try and find the biggest basil leaves that you can. I've already washed these. And let's take some of these big ones from down below, and I'll put the basil leaf top side down in the terrine. Top side down in the terrine. If you have really large basil leaves like this, they work the best. Okay, so now I've got a whole roll of basil leaves, and I need more glue. To put the glue on the leaves, it's helpful if you brush in the direction of the leaves, but you will have to rearrange them a little bit. You can't really brush, actually. It works the best if you just kind of pat the vinaigrette in there. Okay, next comes the cheese. This is a goat cheese called Chev, and I'm going to need to use about half of it. I'm going to grab a pair of scissors here. Open up the goat cheese. Oh, it's being pesky. Okay. And then I'll just cut it. It doesn't matter that there's a little bit of pepper on this knife because it's going right next to the pepper anyway. It doesn't always cut cleanly, as you can see, even though it's really cold, but that doesn't matter. So I'm cutting it in half. And then just basically in half again. Okay, and then I want to take those little pieces, cut this one in half again. It's pretty crumbly, but that doesn't matter. And we'll just lay these pieces of goat cheese lengthwise in the terrine. And we want to use pieces that are about the same size. So use that one. Let's use this one. Cut this down a little bit and then we can use it. We want it, all I'm trying to do is to make a line of goat cheese, and you can work it with your hands a little bit to make the line relatively even. Okay, I'm going to wipe my hands off here. Whenever you're scraping your cutting board with a knife, if you flip it over and use the back, then you won't dull your knife. Just an extra little Flavor Secrets tip. Okay, so I'm just scraping this to get this out of the way. Okay, now I've got my goat cheese there. Keep stirring this up. Pat in some more glue. And if it causes your terrine not to be arranged quite the way you had it, just put it back the way you wanted it. Add in some glue. And now what I'm planning on doing is reversing the order. And you'll see why when I cut it. It makes a really pretty presentation that way. So this way, when we're finished, I'll put the basil leaves now again on top, and when we cut it, it will look like the basil leaves encase the cheese. There we go. Again, right side down. I love putting lots of basil in this because it's just the perfect complement for goat cheese and grilled vegetables. And again, use the biggest leaves you can find, and then you can just kind of wrap the leaf around the cheese. Again, more glue. It's starting to thicken up. So now I'm having to press down a little bit more. Okay, and now I'll reverse the order. So now I'll take my zucchini again, and I can press this right down into the mold. Glue. And then if you remember, underneath the zucchini, as we built this up, we had eggplant. So if you have room, put some eggplant in again. If your knife is all gobbled up like that, you can use scissors. Cut the eggplant to fit. You can also hold it like this if your eye is not accustomed to cutting certain shapes or cutting to certain sizes, which mine is. Okay, and then we'll put the eggplant in there. Last, some more glue. Now one way I could have done it is I could have made another layer of red pepper in the middle too, which is pretty. Or I can put red pepper in now. Doesn't matter. It's a good idea to get red in there twice. The order is completely up to you, and the vegetables are completely up to you. Then just take your fingers. You can use other vegetables like fennel. Just make sure everything is cooked before you build the terrine. You could braise some fennel and put that in. That would be delicious. Okay, so my last element is glue, and I've just used up my cup of vinaigrette. Now all I have to do is fold these over. If it's too long, just take your scissors and snip it off. Fold, whoops, don't slip off there. Let's move our basil. Okay, so fold it this way, fold it this way. If it fits, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Over, 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 over. And that's our last one. Okay, now all I'm going to do is pull up this cellophane and press it down on the top of the terrine. Then take the ends and fold them over. So the terrine is completely encased in plastic, and this is what will help us get the terrine out easily later. Now I've got a piece of thick cardboard, and all I did is I turned this over on the cardboard and I cut it to fit so that it would fit right inside, and then I covered it with tin foil. So I'm going to put that on there and press it down flat, then set something heavy on top of this and put it in the refrigerator for overnight. I usually use Coke cans, and I set the cans on top of here. So let's put this in the fridge overnight and then come back and take a look at it when it's finished. Here we are again with a terrine that's been sitting in the refrigerator for 24 hours weighted down. As you can see, I've weighted it down with pop cans. Maybe somebody should call Coke and tell them they should sponsor our show. Don't you think? Or you can use any kind of weight, really. A brick works just fine. So when we peel away the layers, I think you're going to be really excited to see what we have. Here's our piece of cardboard covered with tin foil, and here's our terrine. First we have to open up the plastic wrap, and then all we have to do is flip it over onto our tray, which just happens to be exactly the right size. There we are, and we peel away the plastic wrap, and voila, there's our finished terrine. Now, it's beautiful just like it is. You can serve it just like it is, but it's also very pretty to add a colorful garnish. Let me just wipe off my fingers here. Okay, I've got some chopped and seeded Michigan tomatoes, which are really beautiful right now. Those make a pretty garnish along the side. And or these are the pieces of vegetable that were left over after the grilling. All I did was cut them into strips, and then I added a little bit of flavored olive oil. Those also make a pretty garnish along the side. You can have, as I said, either or mix it up. Or here's what it would look like if it's mixed up. You'll have some of that and also some of the red. Okay, and then as a finishing touch, what I would do is add some Basil Chiffonade. When you're thinking about what garnish to put on any dish, think about the ingredients that are inside. We've got basil inside, so naturally basil will taste great on top. To make a chiffonade, it's really easy. Just pile these 5 or 6 different leaves up and roll it up into a roll as tightly as you can. Take your knife and just cut little strips. All the way down. And when you're finished, you can sprinkle this into a really beautiful garnish. And I would just put that all along the side. So there's your finished vegetable terrine. Thanks for joining me today in the Flavor Secrets kitchen. You can find the recipe at the end of the program or on the Flavor Secrets website at www.flavorsecrets.com. Bon appetit and enjoy!